Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Malaise. Let's get into our first match and I'll explain what's happening. We've got Squirtle against R.O.B. For anyone who's new, Malaise is the losers tournament. It's a little bit different from a losers bracket that you might see in a lot of tournaments, because the losers tournament finds out who is the worst amiibo. And whoever is the worst amiibo, actually the worst 4, but we still find out the worst champion, the worst amiibos get retrained so that they can compete better next year. The structure of the tournament is going to be slightly different from April Anger in that the top 16 competitors of the April Anger tournament have been replaced by the 16 amiibo who were not able to make it into the tournament. The math was actually really convenient on that one. So, for example, our grand champion Ness, you're not going to see him in the losers bracket because he was able to beat all of his opponents. Instead of his slot, you're going to have someone who didn't make it into the tournament. That also does mean that for this first round, it's going to be slightly harder to follow, simply because all of the amiibo that weren't replaced in each of their respective matches were staying with the same results. Mainly just because we already know the outcome of that match. There's not really much of a reason to run it through again. Also, because this isn't the April Anger tournament, we are using the more lenient rule set, which basically just involves more unique and or dynamic stages. And the rule set actually got changed from the March Malcontent rule set, basically to allow a couple more stages that should be fine. Alright, so that's business out of the way. Let's get on to this match. So, R.O.B. US is really having a hard time killing Squirtle. That trade didn't even do it. And R.O.B.'s kind of getting lapped in percentage, and soon he's going to be lapped in stock. If one of these moves from Squirtle is going to kill him ever. Landing into that forward smash directly, that is going to just kill him. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's a very strong attack, especially when charged that long. And although R.O.B.'s forward air is probably, well, I'm pretty sure it is his fastest aerial, you usually don't want to land with it. Alright, R.O.B. going for some sort of footstool, but then he just keeps getting hit by Squirtle. He's just really bad at landing hits this game for some reason. Backer off stage isn't going to kill him yet. Goes down really low, makes it back. Charizard gets a tech. I didn't even know there was a wall there. I haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, so I don't know the perfect shape of this stage. Because, I know from Smash Brothers, I can see what's above the cloud layer. R.O.B. with an aggressive air dodge in. He's lucky Squirtle didn't decide to go for a smash attack. Even though Squirtle is a little bit low on kill power, smash attacks are still smash attacks. Which does mean they can kill people. And the down air almost traded with Ivysaur's up air. But in the end, Squirtle, as Ivysaur, was able to pull it through, which means that R.O.B. has to keep going. You don't get out of the tournament until you win. And for our second match, we have Pac-man against Marth. Now this is going to be a pretty hard match for Pac-man because he's a sword type, whereas Marth is a shield type. And that does mean that Pac-man is going to take 30% more damage and deal 30% less damage. It is a little aggressive, so that's why whenever Amiibo gets retrained, I always turn their type back to neutral type. It just gets rid of unnecessary gambling. The only reason I don't do it for all the Amiibo is because if you retrain an Amiibo, first of all, you change their training, and if they're a good Amiibo, you don't want that. So we're currently at a point where everyone who does poorly and has an Amiibo typing gets changed to the normal type to make them more consistent. Whereas we do have a couple Amiibo who do really well every year, even though they have one of those typings. Oh, Pac-man already dies to a forward smash on the hydrant. And in order to change the Amiibo's typing, you do have to give them spirits. It's... The spirits itself isn't as much of a problem, but it does actually change their internal values, which, if an amiibo is successful, is something I'd rather not mess with. Especially since the ideal is that once 90% of the tournament is neutral type amiibos, the typing effect will hardly ever, if even ever, come up. Pac-man with good grab follow-up on Marth there. Up airing past the ledge. It didn't pay off, but it was a very safe approach. Pac-man choosing not to... Well, okay, he kind of chose to edge guard. Making it back up with the power pellet chain. Keeping his distance from Marth, but the distance he chose to keep was the length of Marth's sword. Pac-man will be able to make that back if he hits the trampoline a second time. That is something I've noticed the Pac-man amiibo has had a hard time doing. If you hit Pac-man's trampoline, you go higher. And if you hit it a third time, you go even higher again. And Pac-man just proved me right.
I live to fight again.
Luigi versus Corrin. Let's see who wins. One's purple, one's pink. That's a coincidence, I assure you. Anyone who's watched long enough will know that I don't switch the color palettes of the amiibos. That would make the tournaments even more confusing. Corrin charging that forward smash for way too long, giving Luigi like 3 chances to get out of it, and he did. Although Luigi wasn't able to grab the ledge. Not having his jump, and Corrin just clipped through the stage. It is something that does sometimes happen in Smash Brothers. It becomes less and less common with each game, to be honest. However, I have noticed on this stage in particular, it does just sometimes happen. Great back air to escape Corrin's combo. Luigi barely has enough aerial drift to grab that ledge. Corrin with a taunt. Never want to see that. It's really hard to... Well, have fun shimmying, guys. It's really hard to train taunts out of Amiibo. Partially because we only understand the Amiibo system so well as is. And also because part of our current working understanding is that an Amiibo will use a move if it sees the move used a lot. And if it gets hit for using a certain move, it will be disincentivized for using that move. That doesn't really work the same for taunts because they don't have a hitbox. Okay, a couple of them do, and actually Luigi's is one of the ones that does. I did not teach him to taunt because I knew that he would not be using it in the situations in which it's actually a pretty useful taunt to have. But yes, with a taunt, since you can't ever land it, the Amiibo will just kind of throw it out. So we assume that every time they throw out a taunt and they aren't punished, they're probably more incentivized to use that move. Because if you made it so that they were only incentivized for lucky misfire gets Luigi back on stage. And Corrin going through the stage again, maybe that's just a quirk of Corrin. But since the taunts can't land, the assumption is that another misfire from Luigi, the value will be raised just for throwing it out. And it's really hard to hit the Amiibo while they're taunting, because they usually throw out the taunts right after they've hit you away, or usually when they're in a pretty safe spot. And all of that only applies if it works how we think it should work based off of how we think the normal move AI works. So you can see how it kind of turns into a pretty complicated mess of things. In theory, if you find the right spirits, because all of their different totals have been charted so that we know what they are, you could give an Amiibo a spirit that makes it taunt less, but all spirits usually increase or decrease more than one value at a time. Luigi not even trying to recover. Basically, so every time you do that, it's a coin toss as to whether or not you've made the problem worse in other areas. Here we have Link against Wolf. Now, Link is a character, at least way back in the days of Twilight Princess, has a lot of experience with wolves. So you'd think he'd know like their weaknesses or something, but no. In fact, he has experience being a wolf and fighting wolves, but he's never fought a wolf with a laser gun. I know, I can't believe they put that tragic blind spot into the Legend of Zelda lore. Great arrow from Link. I'm a little surprised it hit. Obviously it did. Okay, that arrow was not nearly as great. Looks like Wolf picked up the arrow, dropped it immediately to try to go for an up smash. That up smash hit. Both of these characters definitely have plenty of kill power. Well, you know, enough kill power. Turns out that Link's sword hurts a lot. Sword of Evil's Bane, and I don't know if any of you have ever been mauled by a wolf before, but I imagine it's not pleasant. The double smash attack in a row. It is actually a pretty good move for Wolf to do, just because it has not that much end lag, and because it covers both sides at the beginning of the move, it can be pretty hard to punish. Wolf getting the arrow throw this time. It only got a little more damage, but Wolf surviving that, just barely. For anyone who doesn't know, Wolf isn't a heavy character, kind of in the Star Fox tradition. He's not extremely light, but he's basically just average weight. He's one of those characters that's a heavy character except blank. And for Wolf, one of the excepts is that he's a heavy character except he isn't actually heavy. Kind of makes up for the fact, though, that he's so fast in the air. And that's a little weird, too, because you wouldn't think that Wolf's bad in the air. It turns out his moves all just take a while to come out, but Wolf has so much airspeed that he can throw them out from halfway across the stage, and they'll come out by the time he gets to you. Both characters just whiffing a move through each other. That does sometimes happen. It is less likely in Ultimate, though, since they added that characters can push each other. It's actually a little funny. It started out as a bug, believe it or not. In one of the demos, characters couldn't run through each other, but then they decided to just make it a feature. And honestly, I think it is actually really great for the health of the game. Anyone remembering Smash 4 the days earlier, you would often dash through your opponents to get to the other side of them. And well, without it, the fights just make a little more sense. If you're in a fist fight, you're not gonna run through your opponent because physics. Amazing confirm from Link there. Mid-ramble, he impressed me. Good job. And up next we have Lucina against Bowser Jr. Two characters who actually have more in common than you might think. So, they're both actually some of the only characters who are offspring of other characters in the Smash Ultimate roster. So, Lucina is actually Chrom's daughter. The mother's, it changes depending on, basically you get to pick in the game. It's, you know, whoever you have Chrom marry would obviously be Lucina's mother. And Bowser Jr. is obviously Bowser's kid. We don't know his mother either. Then Nintendo just kind of thought, yeah, you know what, let's not address that. That would be weird or some sort of unfortunate implications that they don't want to deal with. So we just know that Bowser Jr. is Bowser's son, and they just decided to never make the mom. So we have two characters who are siblings of other Smash Ultimate characters, with unconfirmed mothers. A little bit of a mouthful, but... And for anyone who doesn't know the little Mario lore that exists, the Koopalings, which, you know, there's like Ludwig, Morton, Roy, Iggy, those guys, they aren't Bowser's kids. Which makes it a little weirder, because then that means they came from somewhere, but we don't know, probably like an estranged brother or uncle or whatever. Basically, though, they just never started off as Bowser's kids, and people thought that they should be because they're basically the only massive spiky turtles in any of the games. So yeah, that's a little bit of genealogy lore for you. Back here to grab from Bowser Jr. there. I didn't know you could do that. Obviously he did it by connecting the weak hitbox of the back air. Still good to know though, I might have to steal that. The other day I was playing a little bit of Kirby and I started pulling out down air to down smash. Just because I'd seen it so many times in the tournament, I figured it has to at least be true. And it worked. Although, in retrospect, I'm pretty sure I was fighting an amiibo at the time. So take that with a grain of salt. Lucina able to air dodge through the forward air. That's actually pretty difficult. The forward air lasts for just so long. Good tech from Ludwig there. It might not have killed him, but the amiibo doesn't normally know to use side B to recover. At least as Bowser Jr. it doesn't usually know to do that. Good up smash read from Bowser Jr. there. That is kind of the hazard of constantly jumping over your opponents. And it is unfortunately something that the amiibo keep doing. Partially because they need to jump in, that didn't spike. They need to jump in order to use their aerials. So if they have a couple of higher aerial values, they'll just be more inclined to jump to use those. But in addition, the amiibo also has its own separate jumping variable, which tells them basically how much they should be jumping. And that can be pretty hard to train to be whichever value you want it to be, because jumping is so integral to Smash Brothers as a whole. You have to be pretty mindful when you're training an amiibo. Alright, how many times am I jumping? Is this the amount of jumping I want the amiibo to do? Should the amiibo jump more or less than a normal human player would? And on top of that, the spirit setup I use to give all these amiibo the auto heal, it's... Well, here, I might as well tell you so you can do it at home if you want. You get the amiibo to a level 41, 42, or 43. That's the range I've seen it usually works. Just because the values get changed if you do it otherwise. You start with Celebi, the spirit that gives you the third tier auto heal. You start with Celebi, then you add a level 99 Mecha Fiora, no trainings, and then you add a level 1 Kumatora, and it makes them 2100 in both stats with great auto heal and a neutral type every single time. It made the training of all of these amiibo go honestly a lot faster once I didn't have to stop. Well, once I didn't have to keep juggling the spirit stat totals anymore. It does mean though that some of those earlier amiibo do have a lot more spirits pumped into them, which does lead to a little bit of variance just in behavior, because every spirit you pump in does change values somewhat. But also you could argue that the Mecha Fiora spirit, I'm pretty sure it adds to the jumping tendency of the amiibo. Usually it gets trained out of them by the time they hit level 50, but once or twice they've still kept just so many jumps. And Lucina's not going to be able to make that back. Which means that she's going to have to keep fighting. Fighting is now a punishment in Lucy's tournament. And here we've got Dark Samus against R.O.B. R.O.B, the Japan version, by the way. The physical amiibo has the Japan coloring. in-game he has the American skin because it's more confusing that way. And it's my tournament and I do what I want. Good trip from Rob, but he doesn't follow it up with anything. He did do a pretty good job of just dancing around Dark Samus, though. Goes for the down throw up air, but Dark Samus, I mean, as an amiibo, is able to mash out faster than basically any human. Although I think a couple of humans have figured out that if they use certain controller types that basically turn the joystick into a button, that they can mash faster than you're ever supposed to be able to. But it also puts them basically on par with most of the AI opponents. Now, Rob almost just got carried off to his death there. I don't know if you noticed, though, with the platform despawned, which put Rob in an airborne state, which allowed him to recover back to the stage just a little bit faster. Alright, if you did get spiked, that's going to hurt, especially when you're so close to the ledge. It is one of the problems with ledges on platforms that you can fall through, is that your opponent can do it too, and that honestly just makes it so much easier for them to trap the ledge because they don't need to worry about going around it to access you. And if you have any recovery that goes at an up diagonal angle, which a lot of characters do, on a physical stage you will usually bump into the wall and your momentum will carry you into the ledge regardless. But if you go through the platform, that might not be the case, and if your recovery doesn't go high enough to put you on top of the platform, then you still won't grab the ledge, and you will just fall through it. Nice little shimmy from Rob there. He goes for a jab, whereas a back throw probably would have killed Dark Samus. Goes for the down throw, not even an up smash conversion. Up throw maybe would have killed just because Samus is at such a high percent. Rob does have a kill throw, but well, he actually has two, depending on how you consider the down throw to berry up smash combo. Rob really struggling, needs to figure out how to kill Dark Samus. Well, that'll do it. Up smash under the landing. Oh, Rob jumped into the forward air there. They're both playing off stage, though. Okay, Dark Samus is finally able to make it back to the stage. Basically because Rob's AI prioritized getting back to the stage over trying to kill Samus there. Which, as an AI decision, I definitely am glad that they did it that way, otherwise the amiibo would constantly be effectively killing themselves. Goes for down throw to down smash, that's never gonna work. Rob's off stage, goes underneath the charge shot. Able to grab onto the lower platform. Good job. I expected him to grab the ledge, but he jumped over so he could hit Dark Samus with the forward air. Up smash, not killing Dark Samus. Playing by the sides, forward smash will kill Dark Samus. Rob has a chance, but it's kind of slim. Up B, not at a high enough percentage to kill. Very late hit of down air there. But Dark Samus is able to follow it up with a forward smash, meaning that Rob still has to fight. And here we have Sheik against Palutena. Apparently some people don't know about the spoiler about Sheik's identity, which is a little surprising because Ocarina of Time is such an old game, but for their sake, I guess I won't go spoiling it. I suppose, though, you do reach a point where everyone knows that Dumbledore dies. Playing really deep off stage, both characters, they've both been able to make it back so far, but with the amiibo, you really don't want them to push their luck, because eventually their luck is going to run out. Or more likely, as an amiibo, they're just going to self-destruct. Sheik is having a really hard time out-damaging the auto-heal. I mean, Sheik is a character already... Sheik has a couple of problems, mainly having a hard time killing, which is weird because she usually has an okay time dealing damage. However, usually dealing the damage is because of long combos with a whole bunch of hits in there. And one of the things that the auto heal is supposed to prevent is, well, to an extent, any sort of like infinite or something like that. So these amiibo are designed to be really good at killing humans, and quite honestly, they are. They are very effective because they have incredibly high stats, well, you know, maxed out stats, and they have auto heal, which is compounded against human opponents who have a hard time dealing damage because their damage numbers are just lower. If they don't keep dealing damage, the damage gets auto-healed, and every time they get hit, it deals, honestly, it feels like double damage. It is significantly more. When you put two amiibo with the same stats together, the increased defense and increased offense, at least since all of these amiibo are all balanced, they counter each other. So they do the same amount of damage as any normal attack would. Moreover, though, that basically means that they both just get auto heal. And since Sheik does a lot of damage in little small amounts over a longer period of time, she's penalized a little more than other characters. For example, if you get hit by a Ganondorf smash attack, you're taking, 25 damage instantly. Auto heal heals 5% every 5 seconds, so it's basically 1% per second. If you just took 25%, that means you're taking 25 seconds to heal it off. But if she starts out a combo by, let's say, hitting attack for 5%, and then keeps doing the combo for 5 seconds, like, even though you're taking, let's say, the same amount of damage, you're taking it over a longer period of time, which gives your character more chance to auto-heal it. If, you have auto-heal. Coincidentally, if you're ever trying to kill an amiibo, Ganondorf is almost always a good pick, just because he doesn't need to deal as much damage, and he deals more than most other people. And Ganondorf actually has fewer combos, which, when you're a human against the amiibo tend to fall out of a lot, because they take less damage, which means they take less knockback. Which also means all of your moves just kind of hit wrong, and they don't work as well. But if you hit a smash attack, it just means they're not getting sent as far off stage. If you're trying to hit a combo move, though, they will usually fall out and hit you with their fastest move instead. It's actually really annoying. Good edge guard from Sheik, but Palutena is going to be able to make it back. Sheik still needs to find a way to kill. Up air, not killing yet. Palutena is definitely not a lightweight. I know, even though you think like, oh, she's like a goddess and kind of floaty or whatever. But no, she has weight to her. Oh, that sounds weird. Palutena finally deciding to change the missing the up smash approach. Sheik pulling off a pretty cool combo, but it ultimately led nowhere. And it's the fourth up smash that gets ya. That means Palutena is safe. And for our final match of this episode, we have King K. Rool against Jigglypuff. I know it's a little weird to have the tournament winner from last year in the losers bracket. He just lost his first match, and it turns out he lost his first match against Olimar, who went on to win the tournament. So you kind of can't blame him. Good up tilt from Jigglypuff. I'm a little surprised it hit. I'm pretty sure K. Rool threw out a back air, which put his limbs in a position to be hit by that move from Jigglypuff. Forward tilt at the ledge, not killing Jigglypuff yet, but the forward air will. King K. Rool going way too high. he's honestly lucky to only take a light punch from Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff is a character who can definitely punish you really hard, especially with rest, which the Amiibo AI does know to use, and the Amiibo is actually usually better at just hitting a whole bunch of rests than most humans are. Rool is not giving Jigglypuff the space to do what Jigglypuff needs to do, though. Jigglypuff is, well, a character... Okay, let's be honest. Jigglypuff is usually not a great character. Up smash. I don't think Jigglypuff could have gotten away with a forward smash. Usually you need the opponent to be at around 70%. Good rest, though. Jigglypuff is not the best character by any means, so you usually have to play pretty grimy in order to just get any wins. So you're usually always floating exactly outside of your opponent's reach, hoping that they screw up. And once they do, then you can go on the offensive and start killing them, punishing them with... Honestly, Jigglypuff has a pretty good punish game. If they throw out any sort of laggy smash attack, you can make them rest. So you can make them sleep with Sing. And when they're asleep, you can then hit them with any sort of smash attack. And of course, there's the really quick punish of rest. It's especially good at... It sends people up. So if someone is for some reason very high up in an, I don't know, special fall, you can just kill them with a rest. Someone goes really high for, say, a smash ball, you can kill them with rest. It's a great move. And on top of that, you can hit rest out of things like putting your opponent to sleep, or hitting them with a side B, or hitting them with a forward air. Some of them are a little riskier than others, and King K. Rool already finished that match. That was going to be a very quick match. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time.